So the next strategy I want to examine is the strategy of grouping. What is grouping and when do I use it? Okay, so first let's start with an example. Let's look at something like 4x squared minus x minus 18. So it's still a trinomial expression, but the difference is now I have a leading coefficient. So it's not as easy as the problems that we just did before with inspection. To get a 4x squared, I have many options. I could have a 2x times a 2x, or I could have a 4x times a 1x. And then to figure out this value of 18, remember we need to do the outers and the inners that are going to combine to make this -1. Inspection might be a bit difficult, not for everyone, but for some, to figure out what two binomial products are going to multiply together that are going to make this trinomial expression. So I'm going to abandon my strategy of inspection and I'm going to try a new strategy called grouping. So what does grouping look like? Grouping has some unfamiliar steps. And one of the first steps is to take your outer numbers and multiply them together. So 4 times -18 is equal to -72. And similarly, I'm going to go through the factors of -72. So I have 1 and 72. I have 2 and 36. I have 4 and 18, but I also have 3. How many times is 3? 3 times, oh gosh, 24. I also have 4 and 18. I have no 5, 6, no 6, no 7. I have 8 and I have 9. And now I want to look at these factors and see if I can find ones that combine to make a -1. All right, so 1 and 72, not going to do it. 236, 3, 24, 4 and 18. Well, 9 and 8 are 1 away. So the question is which one would have to be negative? So I believe it would be the 9 because I want a -1 as my middle term. So we're going to use these values of 8 and 9 in our grouping strategy. We can't just put these into our binomial factors. We have to do something a little bit different. We have to do something that's called splitting the middle term. And really, it's just more about replacing this middle term with a combination of terms. So I have a 4x squared, and I'm going to replace this middle term with a positive 8x and a negative 9x. Now, what has that done for me? Well, it hasn't changed my trinomial expression at all because all I've done is taken that middle term and changed it into the sum of two other terms. 8x minus 9x is still equal to -1x. But what it has allowed me to do is to group my first two terms and my second two terms and apply the strategy of grouping. So let's see, what two numbers go into, or what number goes into 4 and 8? 4 is the GCF on that. And here there's a x as a greatest common factor. 4x times x would give me 4x squared. 4x times 2 would give me 8x. And remember, whenever I'm looking at a expression with a leading coefficient that is negative, I am going to pull out that negative. So -9 is my GCF, and I'm left with an x plus 2. Now notice my common factor. I have an x plus 2 as a common binomial factor. So now I'm going to factor out that x plus 2. And what I will be left with is a 4x minus 9. So we can see that it was option 2 that would have given us our factors. And I need to use the values of 2 times negative 9, which would have created my negative 18, to be able to find my binomial factors. You can multiply this out, any strategy you would like, and indeed verify that it's equal to this trinomial expression. That's grouping.